Welcome to Tanya Today. I'm Rabbi Repay coming to you from Chabad Zichron Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you the Tanya. We welcome, as we do all the time, everybody. Clem in Brisbane, Abba in Crown Heights, I think, or New York at least. Mark in Santa Rosa, bright and early. Michael in Germany, good afternoon. TJ in Melbourne, Australia, where it's an evening, a summer evening. Davida and Liba in New York, a joyous Boker Tov and a Tanya Tov. John is with us in North Carolina. Art in Michigan, wonderful. June is also in Australia. All right, the Australians are amazing because I think it's only like, I don't know, is it 11:30 or is it 12:30 at night? Susan, Scranton, Pennsylvania, welcome. Shalom to AG. Diane is with us in Arizona. Robert, shalom to you in Boston. Heather in Norwood, Connecticut. Tim in Boker Tov in Texas. Irma is with us in New Jersey. Good morning, Dam in Indonesia. Good evening, Pinchas in Tzfas. Oh, all right, the holy city of Tzfas. Eugenia is still in Florida on vacation. Now, someone's on vacation and they're still learning Tanya. Kol hakavod, power to you. Actually tied in with last night's class. Julie is in Florida. Not on vacation. That's where she lives. Lynn in Long Island. Bonjour. Who else is with us? Shimon in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Shalom. Kotan in Vienna. Welcome. Shayakov, welcome. Miriam is in London and joined us last night for the class. Thank you. Thank you for your comment. David from Toronto. David Shmuel, that is. Hadassah in New Orleans. Shalom. Michael is with us in Myrtle Beach. Okay. Southbound to Florida after the class. Wow. Okay. Talia, good afternoon to you wherever you are. Mark Luzata is in Poland with us. Rena in Colorado. Usher is in Tennessee with us. Shalom. Natine in Canada. Sandy in Michigan. All right. Beautiful. We've got with us Batya, Vilma, David, Marcy, Eliana, Tim, Sina, and B. Okay. And on Instagram, Heather, Bulan, into Telebenta, Kistal, I got that wrong, I'm sure, Paul, or Tzvi, Iron Golem, okay, Koi in Peru. We conclude today the 12th chapter. One word, Beinoni. The intermediate in between the righteous and the Rasha. This Beinoni, we've learned, has complete mastery. Not over the heart. During prayers, the heart will be aflame. And the urges of the heart that are not a healthy one, that are not a holy one, not unto one's purpose of what they were created for, but just for your desire to fulfill, We have desires in our heart that we want to fulfill, whether it's eating some chocolate, which I like, or whether it's any other desire or lust. Addiction can become even. So that's of the animal soul, and so those urges are still there by the Beinoni. after he goes into the world. The difference is that the impression of his prayers and the bond and the fiery love for God is retained, and that the natural love that wants to be connected and not disconnected from God enables him or her to prevail over and dominate over the cravings of the left ventricle of the heart, where the animal soul resides, preventing that any supremacy would come from the animal soul over the individual. Furthermore, even in the mind alone, what does it mean in the mind alone? Thoughts, negative thoughts, sinful thoughts even, has no dominion or power over the Beinoni, that the Beinoni would consciously, willfully think of a negative, wrong thought. It will rise from the heart to try to overcome and willfully think the thought that is not inappropriate, that is negative, that is sinful. Because that only the tzaddik has control over, not the Beinoni. That's called an involuntary thought. It comes to your head, right? A voluntary thought is that thought that came to your head, that is a negative thought, an evil thought maybe even, that you willfully choose to ponder it. The Beinoni doesn't. Immediately when it comes and rises to the head, pushes away with two hands, avert the mind from any negative thought, any evil thought. Refuse to accept that it should be entertained in their mind. In other words, this is where real free choice takes place. It's in between our ears and our mind. That's the real place where it takes place. Because from a thought that develops into speech and then into action. So where does it really begin? Free choice is here. That willingly choosing to push away the thought. Because if willingly you choose to ponder the thought that shouldn't be thought, then what does that deem you in that moment? A rasha. Why? Because you stained your soul thinking a negative thought. And a Beinoni is never wicked even for a single moment. Not in behavior, not in action, not in speech, and as we're explaining now, not even in thought. And in conclusion of this chapter, the Alter Rebbe says, so too when it comes to matters between human, and this is not just negative thoughts that are, thoughts that God doesn't want you to have that are between you and God, right? But there are even thoughts that are between man and man, between two human beings. In other words, as soon as it arises to the heart, to the mind, animosity or hatred, jealousy, anger, or grudge, or the like. We're not talking about, towards a Nazi, murderer. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about who do you usually have jealousy of? Who do you usually have a grudge against? Who do you usually have some animosity towards? Well, usually a loved one. That's the usual case, right? So the Beinoni will bar them from the mind with their will, refusing to think about them. And on the contrary, the mind will prevail and dominate the feelings of the heart to do the exact opposite of the heart's desire. What does that mean? In other words, What's your heart's desire? Yes. Someone tells you off, a loved one. Someone, is bitter towards you because, whatever, rightfully, wrongfully, let's say wrongfully even, right? Bitter towards you, wrongfully. The Beinoni will conduct themselves towards this individual with kindness. Actually will display a disproportionate form of love, even though the person is suffering from them in an extreme, perhaps. For sure will not be provoked to take any kind of revenge. But, on the contrary, l'goimel l'chayavim toves, will repay offenders with favors, with kindness. As the Zohar taught, that we should learn from the example of Joseph, how he conducted himself with his brothers, when he repaid them for the suffering that they brought upon him with kindness and favors. All right. Powerful stuff. Let's take this apart. We conclude the chapter 12 of the Beinoni. And just a reminder who we are. BIT, Beinoni in training. We're training towards this. That someone could be really nasty towards you. Someone that you care for, that you love. And they love you. That's why they're being nasty. Without getting into all the details, but there's an expectation. That expectation wasn't met, and therefore they're upset. From being upset, they become hurt. From being hurt, they become often nasty. Instead of not having the expectation to begin with. Have a conversation, but not an expectation. You can have a conversation about something that is important to you, but not as an expectation. And in any case, but that's the side point. The point over here is that the Beinoni suffered at the hands of this individual, and yet repays with favors, with kindness, with a greater amount of expression of love. And this is not a tzaddik, this is not a righteous person, this is you and I, because we're Beinoni in training. We can come to this. How? Because, learn from Joseph. He said that God is the one who did this. God had a plan. And this is the plan. So the same thing is, when we recognize that God has a plan, and sometimes we hear things that are hurtful, sometimes we're the brunt of some, even verbal abuse, it could be, and other things. I'm sure we've all experienced it. What do we usually feel? That we're self-righteous and the other person is just not nice. And the Beinoni is not going to think that way. Why not? I mean, isn't it objectively true that that person's not nice? I don't know if we're the ones to make the decision what's objective. The only thing objective is Torah. The only objective is the values and teachings of Torah. Me? How it filters through me and what I experience? That's subjective. So, it's subjective. This is what I'm feeling. Oh, you're feeling this. You're feeling this doesn't make it justified. That's why the Beinoni is not going to allow that feeling, because he knows where that feeling is coming from. It's coming from the animal soul. A feeling, put upon, whatever it is. Now, this is a very high level. Now, some people might say, well, talk it through with the individual. Well, the Beinoni goes a step further than talking it through with an individual and trying to, work it out. The Beinoni works it out in themselves. That's how evolved, how mature the Beinoni is. Recognizing, just like Joseph, that this is coming from God. The fact that this person is speaking and saying these things means it was meant for me to hear. Now, it doesn't mean it was meant for me to hear and to do I have to hear the nastiness? Could I maybe hear the pain the person's going through? Could I maybe hear how low they have brought themselves to and have compassion for them? That is powerful. We can do it. We can, if we choose and want to. That's why we had the first, chapters 2 through 5, so we understand what the godly soul is. We had chapters 6 through 8, so we understand the animal soul. So we have to know that when this thought is coming, it's the animal soul's talking. Now, if you want to entertain its sentiment, so then you're going to ponder and you're going to feel a victim and you're going to, of what happened, and you're going to feel some degree of animosity to the person or negativity towards this person, because that's all coming from the animal soul. Now, is that normal? For sure. That's human. I don't want to take that away from anybody. It's human. It's normal. But that's what it means to be a BIT. That's not what it means to be a Beinoni in training. It's to rise above the human condition. So normal would be, you're upset, you're hurt, and talk it through, and so on and so forth, and which it doesn't mean you don't talk something through, by the way, on this level. But what it means is how you don't entertain the animal soul's desire that, you feel bad for yourself, you're the victim, and that person's nasty, and you have these negative thoughts that get into your head. The Beinoni pushes them away with two hands. And not only that, to overcompensate for what you would probably want to feel negative, shower them with love. Again, if we're talking about a loved one, we're not talking about some, Nazi murderer. I'm talking about that. Right? I'm not talking about, someone is, some terrorist that's trying to kill you, shower them with love. I'm not talking about that. That's. By the way, did you ever have that happen to you? Like a terrorist tried to kill you, or a Nazi murderer? No. But what you did have was loved ones who tried to crush you. People that are close and dear to you tried to hurt you. Because they were angry, they were upset, they were jealous, or whatever, right? So, human, you respond in kind. A Beinoni in training doesn't do that. A Beinoni in training is going to rise above and take this understanding, right? That whatever happened, God allowed it to happen, was meant to happen. It's there for me to grow from this, to take what I should take from it that is appropriate to take from it. Of course, what is not appropriate, leave behind. And God thought it for good. Therefore, I could do good to you. All right, folks. Anybody ready to live that way? To introduce this into your life? Questions, comments, thoughts? Let me see here before I lose the feed. 2 question marks before you ask a question. Davida is the first question I see over here. Doesn't God forgive us in the same manner we forgive others? Yes, absolutely correct. If we're able to be forgiving, God will be forgiving to us. Exactly. Okay, Michael. Thank you. June and Alice, I lost the feed, so it's going to have to be re-put in. Sorry. Can't answer them because I lost it. Michael, about your father's animal soul, don't take anything from what happened to him and the rupture of his left ventricle of the heart. No. Don't take that to mean anything. Okay. Susan, you had an Arab taxi driver attempt to kidnap me in Jerusalem. Yeah, we're not talking about that's a terrorist. We're not talking about that. We're talking about your loved ones. You're right. Such a person, whatever. It's not your usual experience, okay? That's my point. But I can guarantee you no one went a month without being hurt by some loved one that maybe angered you or maybe upset you or, whatever. Lori, can you forgive but decide to no longer have them in your life if they are an abusive person? Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Lori. Very excellent question. Right. Being forgiving doesn't mean you have to bring them into your life because, they could be, if we reach the level of the Beinoni, so then that person ultimately is not going to be, is not going to be able to have any control over me and bring me down. But they might be negative for the environment of other people and may bring other people down. So then that would definitely be, an issue that needs to be addressed. But yeah, it doesn't mean that therefore when we're talking about showing them kindness and doing a favor to the one that hurts you, right? As Joseph did, right? Ultimately, I mean, he put them through a process because they had to do tshuva, they had to do penitence, his brothers, right, in the story. But ultimately, he does favor. He does, he brings them close. So that, he's not affected by it. But, we're only... the audio is out on Instagram. Hold on. I have to do something. Give me a second. Is that better? No, doesn't seem to be better. All right. Sorry. Is that better on Instagram? Let me know, Liba. Okay, Katie. So can a BIT still be a BIT if they put distance in between the loved one who has hurt them? I'll stay over here, you stay over there, and we're cool. If you just leave me alone, type of thing. Can there still be a B? Listen, I hope we'll be BITs forever, and in that there's going to be levels of progression, level of, growth. So, hold on one second. Give me a second. Let me see if this will make a difference. No. So I don't know what's doing with the audio on Instagram. Sorry. So, it means we're in training. We didn't hit the level of being a Beinoni, so we're only in training, which means we can train, and maybe eventually we'll be able to be not just forgiving, but forgetting their negativity, because we don't allow that negativity to be entertained. That the key over here is, let's not lose the point. The point is that when we recognize that it's that negative thought, that jealous thought, that anger thought, that animosity thought, the grudge thought, where's it coming from? Is it coming from godly soul? Obviously not. So where's it coming from? Not coming from thin air. It's coming from the animal soul. It's coming from one's heart, right? The desires, the negativity that we have in our heart. That's where it's coming from. Once you recognize that that's what it is, so then why are you entertaining it? Now, the action to separate yourself from another person, that's a separate thing. That comes afterwards. The first point is, what am I feeling? What am I, rather, not feeling. What am I thinking? If I will think the right thoughts that we are presenting here, then I will act in the healthiest and best way. If I entertain what my heart's feelings are from the animal soul, of being a victim, being hurt, bearing a grudge, and I'm thinking that willfully, right? I mean, it comes into our mind because we don't have the control of it to come to my mind, but I have the control to engage in that thought, to meditate that thought, upon that thought, or push it away. So here, we're pushing away. Someone's going to have to help me when it comes to Instagram and why this would be happening. I don't know. So this is the beginning. That's why it's the actions of separating yourself from this person afterwards is afterwards. Remember that. Before you get there, what are you thinking? Can you push away those negative thoughts? Can you actually do them a favor? Can you embrace that person? That's what we're talking about. That's what we are talking about. So it's not about a category. Am I still a BIT? Still a BIT. Failed here. You failed in the training. Maybe. Not because you distanced yourself, but because what your thoughts were before you did those actions. I hope that's clear. Kevin, God bless you. Thank you for sharing. Beautiful. So I guess it's not working over here. So it's not working over here on, just let me know again on Instagram. I'll just close it. Now, by the way, no one's saying that this is, so Instagram is a problem, I guess. Okay. So I'm just going to close it. All right. So, again, yeah, this is not easy. That's why we're in training over here. That's why many of you have learned Tanya many times, and together with me even. And that's why we need to constantly be learning. Because this is not something so simple and so easy. Absolutely correct. Alice in June's question. Okay, let me see if I can find it. By the way, anybody on Clubhouse that wants to share something, please. Alice. Um, so sorry, I lost them. I lost the feed there. All right, anybody on Clubhouse to share with us? Marcy, Liana. Okay, I hear you. Clubhouse question. Yeah, sometimes there's difficult situations, and you know that are unhealthy things that happened in a household, and you know we're giving a very general idea over here. Um, that the truth is, think about it. Even if someone did some acts that are horrific, and uh, that today is I don't know, it's a very good issue and question. Um, let's see how we can go with this approach. Okay, I hear ya. Wow, amazing. Okay, all right. So again, anybody here on Clubhouse? I guess I hope everything is clear and wonderful. That what we can take out of this. Think about it, folks. What a freedom this is. How free could you be that person, right, can't control you? That you don't even allow the negative thought about that person to enter your head. By the way, that doesn't mean you don't enter into your head constructive things to in your head and how to deal with the situation. Actually, thank you, Margot. Um, that doesn't mean, very important, I'm sorry I left out this point, but very important, it does not mean that constructive ideas on how to deal with an unhealthy person, an unhealthy situation, that should enter our head. That's coming from the animal soul. Because that's not feelings of animosity. That's not feelings of a grudge. That's a feeling on how do I deal with this? That is important. That must be done. That must be done. That must be done. Right? that's crucial, because you want to fix the broken fence. We're talking about the negativity. We're talking about the negativity, not the constructive ideas and how can I help either this person or how can I help this situation? What can I do that is appropriate? That's not negative. That's not coming from animal soul. That's coming from a good place. I hope that's clear. Tim, I think you had a question. Or maybe I just answered it. Or whatever the case may be. Vilma, did you have something to share with us?
I think you're on point with that. It's important to balance not only the negative thoughts with positive and think about the relationship and how that relationship can be mended.
Yep, exactly. Yes. Tim.
Yes. Hello, Rabbi.
Hi.
Yeah, I'm having bad audio, but I'll try to make through it. Yes, you always answer my question. I was just going to say that I'm going through the same thing with loved ones as well, and I found myself feeling hurt, and then working, and instead of responding from that feeling of being hurt, taking some time and working it out with myself. And then once I've worked it out with myself, that I can choose to feel how I want to feel, and I responded in a way that was beyond how I felt at the moment.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. And that's extremely empowering, extremely healthy. Yes, go ahead.
I wanted to, this is kind of like learning Tanya and going through this process year after year is like, I don't know if I'm liking it in the appropriate or correct manner, but like being in a, what is it, AA, Alcohol Anonymous or something. And so I just wanted to say hello, everyone. Good morning. My name is Batya, and I am a repeat offender. But Baruch Hashem, on a serious note, there has been improvement over the years with learning how to respond rather than react. So I just wanted to encourage everyone. Yes, it's not easy, and especially when it's at home or if it's from our family and people that are close to us, like our really close friends. And thank you, Rabbi Fine, for opening up different avenues to be able to learn and to be able to go through the process of being a BIT.
Thank you for sharing, Batya. Thank you very much. Yeah, it's a process, and that's why we need to learn it every year, because wherever we were last year, this year, we're on a different level, so then we can absorb more, become more, and rise up to a situation that maybe last year we couldn't, and now we could. Yeah, absolutely. I don't see Alice's question. I did answer a question from Alice previously. Okay, folks, to be continued, of course. All right, I'm sorry, I actually have to run right now. So we will continue our discussion. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zurich and Kadesh in Montreal, Canada. It's a privilege and a pleasure to share with you, Tanya. Have a wonderful day.